Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and welcome to this next video in this DOM Masterclass. So the last really big topic I want to talk about is forms, and then we're going to translate how a lot of this stuff works in Jquery in the video after this. But bottom line is this, forms, okay? So let's make a form real quick. So I'm going to clear this out. Let's clear out my HTML. So let's show you a couple different ways we can do this. You can create a form using a form tag. And the way it works is that you would put all your inputs for that form within the form tag. And these could be input elements. So you can have an input that's of type text. Type equals text. A couple other really useful properties on all inputs is a name property. This name attribute allows you to just kind of give it a name. It's good for like selecting, or it's particularly useful in like certain frameworks like React. But you can grab the name, so we can say we'll just call this the text input, and then you can put placeholder text, which is just text that shows up when there's nothing in the input box. So type stuff here. So you can see there like little text. Okay, so there's an input tags are self-closing tags. So good practice is to put the slash at the end. You don't have to, but there's no closing tag. Then you can have input, and actually I'll just copy this for the sake of keeping this quicker. We'll do that, and there's also like you can do like a number. There's a whole bunch of different inputs. Number, we'll call this one number, and the placeholder will be, we'll say, can I make it a number? 0. Yeah, there we go. And then I can, again, so the number one, I can choose a number. Type one, I can type in. Okay, not all inputs use the input name. Okay, so for example, like there's text area, which is like a bigger text box. Text area. Okay, and see the text area is like a more bigger box that you can resize. There you go. So you can resize it and type stuff in it. It's interesting that's showing all that stuff in there. Usually it would not, but something's being interjected in there. I'm not going to worry about it right now. It's probably because of live server. Yeah, it looks like this, whatever. But the text area would be like this box here. Okay, and again, you can give it a name, all those same properties. And then there's like a select tag, and the select tag takes in option tag, takes in options. So let's say I have pizza orders, but in my database I keep track of the pizzas by number. Okay, so I'll give the option of value property of, let's say, 1, and let's say a value of 1 is really a pepperoni pizza. Pepperoni pizza. Okay, if I don't specify a value, it defaults to whatever text is in here as the value, but I totally spelled pepperoni wrong. Pepperoni. And then I can create multiple options in this select tag. So let's create a few. Okay, so we'll say broccoli, a broccoli pizza, and a onion pizza. 2, 3. Okay, and let me go find this drop-down box. Where is it? This text area is kind of acting weird. Someone take out the text area for a second. Refresh. There we go. And see, you see the drop-down here. Pepper, broccoli, onion. Okay, so that's how a select tag works. And then again, there's a whole bunch more. Input type equals, and see here you can see the full list, like there's date, email, file, month. So you can select like a number of calendar, radio, range. There's a lot of different ones to practice with. So you'll do one radio. Okay, and that's this button right here. Okay, and then last we'll do a submit. Input type equals submit. Okay, nice. So what's going to happen is that whenever a submit button gets pushed, it triggers an event on the form. So the form has this event called submit that gets triggered. So that's where we're going to want to take advantage of it. Okay, so let's do that. Let's grab the form. So const form equals document dot query selector form. Okay, nice. And let's always console.log to make sure that we got the thing we thought we were gonna get. Okay, good. So grab the form. So there's the form. Wonderful. Okay, so now let's create our event. So form.add event listener. And the event is a submit event. And then we have our function event. And let's just console.log the event. And let's see what happens. So let's put some stuff in the form. I'll type some stuff in. I'll put some numbers in there. I'll hit the radio button, choose broccoli, and I hit submit. Now notice that log, you saw the log for like a second, but then it disappeared. See, like the page is like refreshing. That's the default behavior of a form tag. It has to do with the way we used to use forms back in the day. What would happen is, like, especially if you're using it with like a PHP page, you would have like the form kind of redirect you to another page that actually handled the form input. You don't really do that all that often anymore. There's a lot of other ways to handle the form, but you can't turn off that default behavior, because then you would break every website that was created beforehand that used it, that relied on that behavior. So what they did do is they did give you a way to shut that off. Say, hey, don't refresh the page when I click submit. And that's a function that's built into the event. It's called event.preventDefault. What this does is going to prevent, for a form element, it prevents the page from refreshing. So now if I type some stuff in, I put some numbers, I hit the radio element, I can click submit, and now I do get the submit event. And see, it's not a mouse event, it's not a keyboard event, it's a submit event. It's a special type of event. Now let's take a look at the different properties in here. Bubbles, cancelable, composed, event, is trusted path. Okay, source element, target. Okay. And the cool thing is, like, the target, the form does have an array of its properties. So you can see here, like, there is a form and it has keys for the different, where did I go? Console. So we can see keys for the different properties where the different inputs are at. Okay, so let's just try to loop over that. Let's see if we can do that. Okay, so if I go event.target.for each, let's see if this allows me to, we'll say input, so each one should be an input of some sort. And then what we want to do is console.log the value for each one. So console log the input.value. And let's see if that works when I click on the form. So choose some number. Okay, event.target for each is not a function. Nope, can't do that. Let's see here. Event. Let's keep the console.log of event.target. There's other ways to do this, but I just want to see if we can take advantage that it's a form element. Okay, that's all good there. But I'd rather actually let's go back to the event, because that's just showing me the submit. Okay, so if I go back to the target, see, we see the inputs there. Now I want to access those inputs. Okay. Okay, target. And actually, let's just expand here. Maybe there's a separate, different one we can use. Yep, we could use children. This would work too, which is an HTML collection, and we can loop over that. So we can try that. So let's try that. Event.target.children.for-each. Okay, and then again, each of those is an input. And let's console.log input dot value, the value property of each of those form elements. So I'll put some stuff in the form. 55. Okay. Oh, nope, that doesn't quite work either. Probably what I want to do is this. Let's just turn the children into an array, kind of like I showed you earlier in one of the earlier videos. We can wrap it in curly brackets, use the spread operator. That'll kind of fix the issue. So let's refresh the page. Well, it doesn't like that. Let me think about why. Event.target.children. That should work. Unexpected token. Is that wrapped within something else? Yeah, that should be fine. But it just doesn't like it. Okay, so let's try this a different way. So let me comment this out for now. Submit again. Event.target.form. Trying to be clever. So examining all the properties out here. Is connected. So there's a lot of good stuff in here. Dataset. Is there a value property actually? No. Okay. I guess there's no easier way to do this. Okay. So in this case, what you could do is that once you've selected the form, you know that the idea is that they clicked on the submit, you know that all the details on the form are what they should be. So in this case, at this point, what I would do is I would just grab each form element. So first I would document dot query selector, and for inputs, this is where I'll oftentimes use attributes. So I'm going to select the input that has the type equals the text. Okay, and we can grab the value of that. So let's grab each of these elements. So we'll call this the text input, const text. Working with forms can be a little tedious sometimes. And again, we always want a console log to make sure that we grab the right thing. Okay, text, const the number equals, and I'll just actually do this. So, doot. You want the one that says number. Okay. And then the next one we want to select is the select tag. So in this case, actually, we want to grab the select tag itself. So we'll say select. 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 And then the last one was radio. So now let's just double check that all this worked. So I'll type in here, put some number. I will choose onion, choose that. If I hit submit, okay, so you see I'm selecting the right things. Good. So now what I care about is can I get their value? So each of these nodes should have a value property. That's where the actual form data is stored in. So dot value, dot value, dot value. Okay, now if I hit so now if I type in here now, I hit submit, and there we go. So we know that this is the text I typed in. That's the number I put in here. Now broccoli is basically, if I go back to my options, so you can see broccoli is pizza 2, so I get back the value attribute, not the word broccoli. Okay, if I didn't put the value property, then it would have gave me back broccoli. And then the radio is either on or not on. Okay, so if I took that off, so like if I refresh this, left that blank, okay, you can see, oh, that still gives me back on. If I click it again, that's not super useful. Okay. Let's see. Let me try to do a hard refresh because that shouldn't say on. Submit. Yep. Nope. Still saying on either way. Okay, well, the radio button is usually supposed to be like on or nothing. So that way, if you didn't click the button, it's not on. But in this case, for some reason, it's kind of permanently being on. Cool. But that's kind of how forms work. Now, you don't have to use the form tag. I could just not. Instead, take out the form tag. That way I don't have to worry about prevent default. Instead of making a submit event, okay, on the form, I could just do something like this. I could just say, let me grab the submit button, const submit equals document dot query selector, and I'm going to grab the element that has a type of submit. And then instead of doing a form, we're doing it on the submit button. And instead of doing a submit event, we'll just do a click event on the submit button. It's going to end up being in the same place. Because when I click on these things all end up having a value. But then when I click submit, I'm triggering a click event. So see, it's a mouse event, not a submit event. But it's doing the same thing. Okay, and I don't even need prevent default now. Okay, because that whole refreshing thing was a form tag thing. I'm not using the form tag anymore. So now I can just kind of not worry about that. Okay, and you get all that. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of how forms work. And then, basically you would pass the form data to whatever you want to do with the form data. So if you want to use it in an API call, you want to use it wherever, but you would just do it in the event that gets triggered after you hit the submit button, whether it's a submit event or a click event or whatever. The input, the other thing, the key is that each of these nodes, each of these inputs, where you get the data that the user entered in is the value property. That's the main thing to remember. So when I grab that query, when I query the select, when I query the number input, the text input, how do I get the data from it? It's the value property. Okay, and basically with all these tools, you should be pretty well off to kind of do a lot as far as manipulating the DOM and triggering events to manipulate what's going on the screen. There's a lot to learn when it comes to browser APIs. This is really just scratching the surface, but this is a strong start to kind of get you playing around and experimenting. So, create buttons, try to manipulate things when the buttons are clicked, try to click on other things, try other events, key presses, play around, explore. In the next video, we're going to do is we're going to show you how there's a library called Jquery that's really popular that makes some of this stuff even simpler. The contrast was much greater before, but like a lot of the plain JavaScript has advanced quite a bit. That using normal JavaScript isn't quite as painful as it used to be to do DOM manipulation. But Jquery was a library that made it a lot simpler to help deal with browser compatibility and lots of other things. And we'll explore that in the next video and just kind of show you all the things you could do just with plain JavaScript you can do in Jquery, but oftentimes with a lot less typing.